I've always been interested in books. Um, and I started doing zines and like around 88 when I got into like punk rock and hardcore music. Um, and I really didn't really know anything about them. I just saw them around and I thought, well, I can do that. And
Hmm.
um, so I started just doing terrible punk rock scenes. Um, I mean, and they were really bad, embarrassingly bad. And I know some people still have them, so I hope they don't surface. But what was really interesting about them, though, is that somehow I got on mailing lists for record labels, and I would get all this free stuff in the mail, like albums from like full length albums from bands that I actually liked and listened to and had seen live several times. And and I was like, wow, there's kind of like something to this. Like this, if people care. So like I think that kind of not to be so transactional about it, but like that I think that just helped spur me to keep going.
Hmm.
And then you know, I just decided that, you know, I liked writing. It was something I could do. You know, I pursued it in college. So it all just kind of built from there. But I mean, and, you know, after college, after grad school, when I could read what I want and, you know, had the time to delve into books that I was interested in that didn't have anything to do with schoolwork, you know, that's when I really started getting into writing. Like, and that's about the time I met you, but that's
Hmm.
um, started getting into different writers, different philosophers, trying to put that into zines because I was interested in it. So I guess that's about the time that it really took off. Just the music stuff got a little tired to me, so I tried to bring in some things that I was learning about in school, but I, you know, stuff that we touched upon but never really delved into. That kind of stuff that I thought was interesting. So I tried to filter some of that into zines. That was also the same around the same time where I started getting into like, you know, radical politics and anarchism and stuff like that. So I wanted to filter that into the zines too, which I did. Um, so for a while I was doing zines that were like half music, half like radical politics. And I mean, if these were all still terrible zines, but you know,
I'm
that
sure they
just
were fun.
it was you know more about the like you know finding communities of people who were interested in this kind of thing because certainly everyone I went to school with wasn't. So you know, it was finding communities of like-minded individuals who you could talk to at least through the mail, and email was like a new thing at this time, so people didn't really use that yet to converse. So my first contact was Carl. He reached out to me. I wrote an essay. I wrote two essays, one about Charles Bukowski and one about the novel Frankenstein. And he liked both of those. Um, and yeah, he reached out to me and told me about, you know, the ULA and what they were up to. And, um, you know, I think at the time I really didn't understand, but I was interested. I've always got a soft spot for the underdog, and that's how he presented it as a, like an us against them kind of thing. And so I was interested in that regard. Um, but I mean, I think more than anything, I wanted to find out what exactly it was he was talking about. Like, what was this? Well, why was everybody upset with current literature? Like, it just didn't. I didn't get it. So my curiosity was piqued. And of course, whenever anyone contacts you through the mail and it's like, hey, I love what you're doing, you know, I think you should be part of what we're doing. Like that's an invitation to find out more. So, and I thought he was a character. I mean, so he appealed to me right away. Carl like met him through the mail, and I started meeting the other folks like Steve and Doug Bassett and um, you know Michael Jackman, and I never really conversed too much with Anne, but yeah, like Carl said that everybody was getting together in Hoboken and that I should join them. And and of course, my first instinct was, yeah, like, all right. And then, I'll confess that, like, as the date was drawing closer, and that even as I was driving up there, I was like, what am I doing? I don't know these people at all. Like, why am I doing this? Like, these people could be insane. This could be some elaborate ruse to, like, who knows what. I have no idea what's going to happen here. But it was great. I'm super glad I followed through on it.
What all took place?
So, what I remember is us walking around Hoboken, getting drinks, going from, like, different bars and restaurants, and kind of drinking and just talking about, we talk about zines. Like, the conversation would shift between, like, zines and then ULA stuff. And, there was talk about, strategizing what Carl wanted to do. But I don't remember it as being like a meeting, like an intense meeting where we all kind of sat down and hashed things out. I don't recall that. I do remember we ended up at some German restaurant, which was terrible for me because, as you know, I'm vegetarian. So, like, I don't think I ate anything, or I ate potatoes or something like that. But I mean, that was the most, like, intense discussion of ULA, um, what the ULA wanted to accomplish, and sort of Carl's ideas for it. I remember reading. I read a short essay that I wrote. Again, probably not great, probably not memorable. I remember meeting Bill Blackolive and Jack Saunders, who I thought were super entertaining.
Mhm.
Jack and I corresponded for a really long time. Um, let's see. I remember as it, being kind of a fun, kind of exciting kind of thing. Like, almost like a punk rock show in a way. Um, I don't remember a ton of people being in the audience. It was interesting to hear Carl's rendition of this and his interview. I remember a fair number of empty seats. Um, there were some people there for sure. Um, but yeah, more than anything, I thought it was pretty cool. It was a cool venue. I was psyched to be going there to read something. I mean, you don't get that offer every day. At least I don't. So
Mhm.
it was cool. Die was um, probably the third zine title that I started. This was after I the first moderately successful zine I did, if that's the correct term, was a zine called Orthophobe. And I say successful because I got a couple good reviews in Fact Sheet 5. Um, and so I started getting readers from those positive reviews. And then so I was able to build, like, a small mailing list from that. And then Orthophobe ran its course. I think I don't know how many issues I did, probably 10 or fewer. But so after stopped doing zines for a while, and then I didn't even remember when I started it. It was probably mid to late, no, probably late 90s, or early 2000s. I still had that list of people that I had contacted with. So I just started, um, writing another zine. And this was, as I was talking before, I was done with grad school at this point, so I was able to read things that I was interested in, and that's when I started reading with all the different philosophers. Still in some of the radical politics stuff, but edging ever closer to, philosophy, and some Greek people, and some of the existentialist stuff that you and I have talked about.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that's when I got into that. Uh, and so I just started publishing a zine about it. And I mean, I thought I didn't think anybody was going to be interested in that. And it turned out a lot of people were. And I had some of the largest print runs of anything I've ever done with that zine, during its heyday. It sort of fizzled out toward the end. But at one point I was up to, I know I was printing around 500 copies, and some of the issues were on newsprint, and I was getting them professionally printed. And I had people contributing cartoons and stuff like that, so it was great. I started publishing again in 2019, or maybe it was 20. It was 2020. It was right when everything started shutting down for the pandemic.
And what was the impulse after all these years to start up a zine again? What was the motivation?
Yeah, somewhere in that time zone, or that somewhere in that section between the end of the die and starting Alternative Insight. Just, and also things going on, with my own life. I've kind of got focused on this idea that, like, I knew with myself that there were things I wanted to do, like publish. I'm still still chasing the dream of publishing a book, and I think I'm planning on doing it in 24. So hopefully it's going to happen next year. But during this time, there was the things of, just like work, being a parent, all those pressures that, the world kind of puts on your shoulders, and wanting to do creative projects while dealing with all of that. And I'd spent, years kind of thinking about like what is holding me back from doing these things I want to do, like all this stuff about work and whatever else. It's all bullshit, really. And if you want to do it, you're going to do it. And so I knew for myself, like, it would have been great to have somebody to sort of give me that push, like just get off your ass and do the thing, and so somehow I mustered up the energy to do it for myself, and I probably have the pandemic to thank for that, because I suddenly had a lot of time on my hands. And so yeah, so I just kind of pulled the trigger on a project like that. It turned out to be Alternative Insight, and a lot of people responded to that pretty positively. I think I may have hit on a nerve there. So Alternative Insight lasted, 6 issues. The thing I noted with that, even though it did have, positive impact and got good reviews, I realized that a lot of the people that I was sort of reaching out to and connecting with were people who are already doing creative stuff. So like, it was like there was a certain preaching to the choir aspect to it, that I didn't think was really, necessary. Like, maybe it wasn't getting into the right hands. Maybe something like that should have been more of a blog or a website or something like that, or than a zine. Because the channels for getting your word out about zines are still mostly through people who do zines, and are interested in that kind of thing. So, and with any project, I mean, I hit Alternative Insight pretty heavily. The issues were, the shortest issue was 40 pages, legal size, folded. So in a span of about 2 years, 2.5 years, I wrote about 260 pages worth of material, because I, still have them. And I mean, I guess I just burnt out on it, or at least focusing on that particular theme. So the Raven's Way review, which I'm publishing now, in addition to the dictionary newsletter thing I have going, that is a little more personal. I've kind of dropped the overt calls for encouraging people to, follow those creative pursuits that they're having. I think that current is still in there. Maybe trying to lead more by example than shooting my mouth off about it. You know, some of the same phrases and ideas I know pop up in it, or at least they have in the first issue, and I'm planning the second right now. But yeah, it's a little bit more personal. It gets into, like, the first issue has a lot of writing that I've done over the past couple of years and really didn't know what to do with. And so I'm going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out a way to package it all in a way that's coherent and made sense. And, you know, the Raven's Way review was the end product. You know, I want to say I think it's pretty healthy. It's different from what it used to be. Like, you know, everyone talks about like the heyday of when Fact Sheet 5 was still around, and, you know, there were multiple review zines functioning. You know, it's shrunk from that. But, you know, while that aspect of it has decreased, there are people all over the world. It seems somehow bigger and smaller at the same time. Like, there are people all over the world who are publishing these beautiful photo books with like minimal text or like short poems or things like that, but the quality of the material, that, like, the physical object that they're producing is way better than anything anybody ever published back in the day. So it's just interesting how you can really see the impact of the technology, and like how it has given people the ability to produce this amazing stuff, you know, without huge cash outlays like it was back in the day. So I think there's more people doing it. I think it's more scattered. The network that used to be there with like Fact Sheet 5 and Zine World and all that stuff, that's not there anymore. It seems like there's a lot of factions. Like, people are just mad at one another for reasons that I don't understand. Like, I'll mention, um, you know, xerography debt, and people are like getting mad. Like, I've had people like stop corresponding with me because I've said positive things about that. And I don't know what, I was out of the zine. I was out of the scene for a crucial 10 years, I think, because all sorts of shit must have happened that no one has bothered to fill me in on. So Clown Teeth is, you know, back earlier when I was talking about the music stuff and I said I had 2 active bands in one project, Clown Teeth is the project. And it started with my brother, Matt, asking me, I thought he was asking me to put a band together because he said he wanted to sing for a punk band. So I was like, okay, I'll put a band together. I know enough musicians. And I tried to put a band together, and we were talking about, you know, different people and, you know, when he could meet up with people, because he lives in Buffalo, I'm in the DC area. And it turned out he really just wanted me to make some music that he could sing to and that we would release it. So I was like, okay. So I was like, that's even easier. So I just started, you know, I play guitar, I play bass. I have an arsenal of guitar pedals that can make drum beats. And so I just started putting things together and writing songs and sending them to my brother, saying, here, this is, if you want to sing, this is what you can sing to. So, you know, it took us a little while to get our feet underneath us in terms of quality recordings. Like, some of the first songs we recorded, and all this stuff is available. If you go to the Clown Teeth site, you can find links to where all this stuff is streaming. We have a Bandcamp page and all that stuff. But so you can, like, now we've produced so much stuff. I think there's 12 songs there, and we just finished working on a acoustic EP, and then we have some additional songs going on with the EP. So there's probably about, I don't know, 15 or more songs now. And and you can sort of track our progress with like the recordings get better because I learned what I was doing. He learned how to record his voice better. So it's really kind of grown from that. And sort of the other thing going on at this time is that my brother started doing sort of like a webzine blog kind of thing called 1120 Press that focuses on the punk and hardcore scenes in Buffalo. And so he goes to shows and shoots photos of the bands and interviews people who are doing stuff related to the scene in Buffalo. And he's met a bunch of people from doing this. So he met this woman who runs a radio show on the public radio station in Buffalo. So she's played some of our songs on her show. We've got offers to do gigs. We'll never do a gig because it's only the two of us and I can't play two instruments at the same time. But it's possible we'll do an acoustic thing sometime. Yeah, so like it's interesting, and so like through that it's just kind of grown, and because he knows all these people in the Buffalo scene now, like people are sort of paying attention to what we're doing, and through some clever use of tags and stuff from the streaming services, a couple of our songs have several thousand listens, and we've got thousands of followers, and it's just kind of snowballed, and it's hysterical because I'm in another band that is like a real band, and that band hasn't had like half the success that Clown Teeth has had, and it's just Clown Teeth is just totally for fun. Like